Hi there. I'm CJ Golden.
And I'm Wendy Green, and welcome to the Caregiver's Bakery. This is 30 minutes for you to sit back and relax, put your feet up, meet our guest, and enjoy a yummy tasting at the end.
Yeah, well, I need to tell you that I'm loving all of these recipes that we're getting because folks, we make the recipes along with our guests. However, it's probably the only food that I make that my husband Joe likes. I have been cooking forever. You see all the gray hair? I'm cooking, and since the cancer hit and the stroke struck, Joey's taste buds have gotten wonky, and something that he'll like one night, he won't like the next. I will make him what are his favorite meals and work and cook from scratch and dice and peel and whatever, and he won't like it. And I'm finding it very difficult because I love to cook.
Yeah.
But it's disheartening. It's disenchanting, and all I want to do is bring in pizza every night, which I can't eat.
Gluten-free, right? Oh, yeah. That's too bad.
Well, I'm tossing this in your direction. Any ideas for me?
Well, I know that's hard for you, CJ, because you do love to cook and
eat.
Are there certain things that you know that he always likes? Or does that change too?
The only things that he always likes are Uncrustables, which are peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that come frozen, right. And Dove ice cream bars.
Oh, what's not to like?
Yeah, well, I don't like dark chocolate. He likes the milk chocolate. I would eat the dark chocolate if I could eat ice cream and if I could eat chocolate. Other than that. So those are the two things he really likes.
So I would say maybe cook what you like because you cook for yourself. I mean, you're caring for everybody else. It's nice to care for yourself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever tried smoothies? Does he like smoothies? No? Mm-mm. You've never tried it, or he doesn't like them?
He doesn't like it.
Peanut butter and jelly, then. I'd go with that.
Yeah.
My daughter used to not like anything I cooked, and it was peanut butter and jelly or don't eat.
So that's it.
I know. Hey, why don't we ask the audience if they have some ideas?
Yeah. Hey, look, all of you out there, if you have any ideas for me, and you can plop it down quickly in the chat and not take too much time because you don't want to miss a minute of this week's guest. Or I will post something on our Facebook page with this very question and look for your responses. Somebody's got to help me know how to feed Joe. It's got to happen.
Feed yourself, CJ. Feed yourself.
Would you, Wendy? I'm going to hit you up again with another request. Okay. Would you take a few minutes to tell our listeners about how they can get the recipes in advance, so they can have a tasting party with us after each show, and explain to them what the sweet spot is?
Sure. So tasting party is always part of our Caregiver's Bakery, and we love to share the recipes out ahead of time. As you know, we put them at the end on Facebook after the show. But if you want the recipe ahead of time, you can email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz, or you can email CJ at authorcjgolden@gmail.com. And we will put you on the email list and make sure you get the recipe ahead of time. And the other thing, really excited about this, is CJ and I have decided to start a monthly get-together for all of you caregivers with one of our special guests from that month. And it's a time to Zoom together, to chat, to ask questions, to support each other. Dave, who is our guest today, will be our special guest for the Sweet Spot. The first one is March the 17th. You have to register. So there's an event on the Facebook page, And if you want to come and get the Zoom link, you have to register so that we know to let you in. I don't want it to be open to everybody because then we might get hacked and people show up that we don't really want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So go to the Facebook page, look for the event called The Sweet Spot, and join us with Dave next Wednesday at 1.
1 o'clock Eastern.
Eastern, correct.
10
Sorry.
o'clock if you live way out on the other side of the country.
Right. And then be sure to tag your friends with the in the chat. Sorry, be sure to tag your friends in the chat so that they know to come, comment with us, chat with us, and let's have a conversation with Dave.
Cool.
Should I bring him on?
Yeah, bring him on, because I will introduce him as he is appearing in his little box. There he is.
Come on
Dave,
down.
Hello, Dave Nassaney, who I have known of and known forever. Dave, he was a host to me when he interviewed me, one of his podcasts, and I met him through the caregiver community. Dave travels the country, literally, he travels around the country, and he shares his wisdom about the topic of caregiving. He's a syndicated radio host. He's a life coach. He's a best-selling author of It's My Life Too, Reclaim Your Caregiving Sanity. Oh yeah. His most important role is that of caregiver to his wife, Charlene. You know, when he writes that, he says his lovely wife, Charlene. I have met her briefly. She is his lovely, lovely wife, who suffered a massive stroke in 1996. She has since been paralyzed on her right side and has great amount of speech difficulties since then. And yet, after they put this all together, Dave kept plugging away. He's appeared on numerous programs and stages and created a website called caregiverdave.com. Caregiverdave.com. He provides practical advice to help caregivers not only survive but thrive. And I will tell you that on caregiverdave.com, he has his 2 minutes of hammock wisdom, and it's charming and wonderful. And Dave, come join us.
What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dave. I really want to get into your story. You know, when we met briefly last week, you started to tell us a little bit about how you and Charlene met, the love story. Would you go ahead and share that with us a little bit?
Yes. You know, she is a gourmet cook. I didn't know that when I first met her. But there's an age difference, I got to tell you. And I wasn't looking for romance. I was just dating a bunch of teeny boppers because I was like 20 years old.
Oh, okay.
And I was
glad
a sailor.
you clarified.
Pardon?
I'm glad you clarified that.
I was a sailor. We live on the West Coast. I was born in Brooklyn. I've done a lot of traveling, thus Times Square behind me here. And I was just looking for bodies for the sailboat. You know, I needed about 8 bodies. And I was over at a friend's of a friend's house, you know, just looking for prospects. And she had her best friend was in the background, you know, just kind of eavesdropping. And when she realized what we were talking about, she goes, I want to go sailing too. And I looked up and I said, you look familiar. Do I know you? She goes, yeah, I'm John's wife or ex-wife. I says, oh, I'm sorry. She goes, don't be. He was a real jerk. And John was this guy who I met a couple of years ago when I was like 18 sailing. And it's hard for an 18-year-old, 19-year-old when you're going to college and you know, you've got great hours to find someone who doesn't work a 9-to-5 job who can go sailing with you in the middle of the day on a weekday. But John always seemed to be available for some strange reason. And I found out that he was in the perpetual junk business. You know, he's kind of like Sanford and Son.
Oh, no.
His house is like, you know, this garage on the front lawn and the back lawn. There's always, he's buying out estate sales, and he can make his own hours, a real entrepreneur. So one time when we went sailing, went to a Catalina trip, and he brought his wife along. And, John's like 10 years older than me. He's like really old, he's 30. And I'm like 20. And well, at the time I was 18, he was like 28, and she was, and I didn't think anything of it. She's an older woman, John's wife. Okay. And so that's who I'm looking at now. I says, you went sailing with us one time before, right? She goes, yeah. I says, did you get sick? She goes, no. I says, okay, you can come. Because we don't want anybody who gets sick. Turns green. So the next thing I know, like the next day or maybe 2 days later, I get a phone call from her. She goes, hey, this is Charlene. I just wanted to thank you for inviting me to go sailing. And in appreciation, I want to invite you to dinner. I'm a gourmet cook.
Ah.
I didn't know what gourmet meant. I was just some kid, I'm Middle Eastern. We were Syrian. All I ever thought existed as I grew up was Syrian food and burnt meat, because that's the way my father likes his steaks well done, So my mother would just throw them in a frying pan and char them. And I know it's sad, but since I'm a starving student, I never turned down a free meal. So I says,
Right.
okay. Still thinking it's a little strange, why this older woman is inviting me to dinner. The Graduate movie was was on the air in those days, So I show up for the dinner. I ring the doorbell, and the door opens up, and I'm noticing a lot of things. I'm noticing that it's dark in the background. I see candles burning. I hear this music playing, unforgettable. That's what you are.
Uh-oh.
And then everything like freezes. You ever see a TV show where everything freezes except the guy, me? And I says, oh my God, I'm on a date. And then I like freaked out. I says, oh my God, do I want to be on a date with this older 30-year-old woman? And so I checked her out from top to bottom, as a 20-year-old kid would do. And she looked pretty good. She was wearing this muumuu thing that they wore in the 70s. And then I heard myself say, I can do this. And then reality came back. And then she says, oh, hi, thanks for coming. You're going to love what I have made for you. It's an 8-course meal, and the theme is everything is stuffed. We had stuffed caviar and stuffed mushrooms and stuffed Cornish game hens and some kind of stuffed dessert. And she was going on. And I don't remember what the rest of the stuffed was, but by the end of the evening, I was stuffed. And obviously, I looked at her in a different light. And we had a great time that evening. And when we finally went sailing, lo and behold, we were dating. And we did the getting to know you dance on the boat. Now, I got to tell you about my sailing trips are pretty unique. I rent a boat from Marina Del Rey in Los Angeles, and we sail to the closest island, Catalina Island. We're 26 miles across the sea, Santa Catalina. And so, famous song there, if you're old enough to remember it. So I had a crew of misfits from I'm in the gas station business. My father was in the gas station. My brother's in the gas station. My uncle's in the gas station. So I would find these misfit, weed smoking, beer drinking people, because they could go sailing, if they're off on the weekend. And so the boat, we rent it for 48 hours, and we start paying at midnight. So that's when we get on the boat, midnight.
Oh my
midnight,
gosh.
Friday night, Saturday morning, and we sail to Catalina. It's a 8-hour sail, if we're lucky. And they start smoking their weed and drinking their beer and stuff. And I say, okay, who's gonna steer the boat? Here's the compass. This is the setting. Don't fall asleep. Don't get stoned. We're trusting you to get us there. because I'm going to be busy, schmoozing with my new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I says, and if we miss Catalina, it's just a little tiny island out there, then the next landmass we hit is Antarctica. So please don't miss the island. Stay on course. And so for the next 8 hours, Charlene and I just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And just, when you have a new date, there's just so many things to talk about, getting to know you.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, 8 hours goes by and I get up expecting to see Catalina right there. And all I see is ocean.
Uh-oh.
And I says, have you been on court? Yeah, boss, honestly, I says, how many fingers am I holding up? And so we waited another 30 minutes, no island, another 30 minutes, no island. So it's like 9 hours. I'm getting concerned. I says, maybe we're going to Antarctica. I don't know. But then another 15 minutes later, all of a sudden, this fog bank lifted, and there was the island right in front of us.
Thank goodness.
And
So,
with that, Dave, because I want to get to Charlene now, and how she suffered her strokes and how that changed you both in your relationship. I needed to get you to the island first before I stop the story. But when she suffered her strokes, now this is a crazy turn. This is an event you don't expect. How did you both, I don't like the word, but I'm going to use it, cope with it? How did you both cope with that stroke? And folks, we'll be going into, with Dave's permission, into this in greater detail when we meet with Dave at the Sweet Spot next Wednesday. But how? What?
Before she has a stroke, we first have to get married. So we did fall in love the next 15 months, and we finally did get married. And it was a fairy tale storybook romance, as you would imagine. And she had a couple of kids from a previous marriage, 5 and 8-year-old daughters. And everyone said, you're crazy. What's the matter with you? You're in your third year of college. You want to marry this older woman with kids and a crazy ex-husband. But we were in love, and it worked. And halfway through our 45-year marriage now, she had this headache, the headache of her life. And she wanted to go to Dr. Kevorkian, joking around because it was that painful. But by the 4th day, it turned into a stroke. She lost her speech, became paralyzed. And the next 2 years was like a living hell for both of us, the grief period. But we hung in there, and we almost broke up because she was just angry and bitter most of the time and taking it out on the only one who was around, me. So she slowly became her old self again. I went to a support group. They told me I got to put my oxygen mask on first, etc. And so after we started falling in love again, I realized that there are other caregivers out there who are suffering, going through what I'm going through, and I have a lot to teach them, just if they don't make the same mistakes I made. So I became Dave, the caregiver's caregiver. We travel all over the world. We speak all over the place. But just did my 41st TV appearance yesterday. And I'm trying to remember your question. Oh, yeah. So the stroke. She still cannot talk after 24 years, but she can communicate non-verbally through Pictionary and charades, 2 games I hate, by the way, but I'm still learning to love because I suck at them. And she still cannot walk, but I got her this very fast power chair that can go over all kinds of terrain. And we travel the world with this thing. It's really fun and easy traveling with her because I just load all the luggage on her chair and she heads off. And I had some ankle surgery recently, so we both were in wheelchairs, power chairs. It was her backup chair. And, it's a little tough in the house because it's like bumper cars because she's always in my way. And I'm accusing her of putting, holes in the wall. And she said, no, it was me. And I said, no, it was you. So that's where I brought you up to date.
So, yeah.
Well,
what was your specific question?
The specific question was, and let's make it even more specific then. If I were to ask you for 2 recommendations, if I was going through this with my husband Joe.
Which I think you are, right?
Well, he has come back. His speech is fine
Mm.
to a point. His some of his motor skills are not quite, but they are there. Um, if I was to say to you, give me two, and I know that's hard, two ways that I can center myself so I can then devote better time to helping Joe.
Yeah.
Rather than me being scattered, what are two things that I can do for myself?
Well, I'll give you four. I have this CARE
Okay.
formula, CARE. One is communicate with your friends. Don't isolate yourself. Don't let go of those relationships that you've had in the past. Your buddy that you go to the gym with, or if you're a woman, the one that you go get your nails done with, etc. Because what happens is we start to complain and rag on our friends about what a rotten day we had, and you can't believe what just happened, and they don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to be around a Debbie Downer. Pretty soon they're going to stop coming by. They're going to stop calling, and you're going to be isolated and all alone. So maintain those relationships. If you were going, for your walks, keep going for your walks. And rule number one, do not talk about your caregiving experiences with this person. Save that for your support group. That's what they are there for, so that you can rag on them and they can rag on you, and you say, oh, we have so much in common, and you both walk away feeling better. Ask for help. Caregivers don't like to ask for help. You've got to be specific when you ask for help. Don't just say, hey, people are all the time are saying, hey, if you need any help, call me. Well, I'm never going to call you. You've got to be specific. And if you are a non-caregiver talking to a caregiver, say, hey, can I go to the store for you? Is there anything, I'm going to be there. Is there anything I can pick up for you while I'm there? Be very, very specific. And you as a caregiver have to be specific. I need help Tuesday at 3:00. I need to go somewhere. Can you watch my wife while I'm gone for an hour? Very specific. Rest. Caregivers on average only get 2 or 3 hours sleep every single night. I can't survive on 2 or 3 hours rest. I don't know how they do it, but you've got to get your 8 hours every single night. Now, if something is keeping you from getting your 8 hours, then do something about it. I mean, if your wife wakes up 5 times a night because she, has to go to the bathroom or something, well, get a bedpan or something, or don't let her drink water before she goes to bed. If she, I don't know, whatever it is, figure it out and take care of it. Because if for some reason you need someone to take care of her 24/7 care, then you can't do it. Maybe it's time to put the person in a facility and let them stay up all night, because you probably have a job. And then the E in my formula is eat healthy, nutritious food. Don't eat junk food. Junk food's got chemicals, processed ingredients, sugar, all that stuff will kill you. So that's my formula.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's super helpful.
And you got to put your needs first, of course, your oxygen mask. So I go riding on my bike and I do things like that. I still enjoy my life, and she still enjoys her. She has her hobbies. She sews with one arm. I don't know how she does it, but she makes these Barbie doll outfits, and I'm amazed.
And she still cooks.
Of course, she still cooks.
I'm thinking, how does she chop and dice and all that with one arm?
During the grief period, her mother came to live with us to help out, and she was a big help. But her mother was very untherapeutic as far as the way she was a caregiver. Oh, honey, let me get that for you. Oh, no, you don't. Charlene wanted to start cooking again in the kitchen, and oh no, you can't do that. I'll do all the cooking. And the occupational therapist said, no, you need to push her, otherwise you're going to create an invalid. Mm-hmm. And so I would always push her. Come on, honey, you can do it. Stand up, reach for that shelf. Here, I'll push you a little bit. You can do it. And her mother thought I was cruel, but I created an independent person, and her mother would have created an invalid. So
yeah.
Well, I know we're going to have some great conversations about all of this.
Are we going to?
Yeah, these are great.
But I'm sorry.
Well, I want to get to the recipe.
Well, I do too, and I was going to ask why. Well, let's talk about this recipe. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I
Dave,
don't
tell us
know
why
if
you chose
if it's
this one.
gorgeous, but it tastes
It
good.
is. Well, that's it.
It
That's what I
looks a
mean.
little strange. Wasn't that your words? You said, "Well, it looks a little strange,
No,
but
the
I trust
recipe
you."
itself was unusual.
Yeah.
So simple. So simple. I
Yeah,
loved that.
I love it.
So
Dave,
here I
why did
made
you
a
choose this
whole
recipe?
bunch here. You see, I already
Ooh.
Oh,
started eating
yum.
it. Why did I choose it? Charlene makes a lot of stuff, and she has a sweet tooth. I mean, when she has her vanilla latte, I have a coffee shop too. A vanilla latte freeze usually takes 3 pumps of vanilla. Well, she wants 8 pumps. I mean,
Oh,
she's got this sweet tooth, and so a lot of the sweet things she makes, I just pass on. But there are a few that I will go crazy about, and it really messes up my diet. But this is one of them, and she calls it I don't know what she calls it because she can't talk, but I think a cobbler, and I don't know if it's technically a cobbler, but it's just really, really good, and it's one of the few recipes, desserts she makes that I can't stop eating. And I
It,
think
it,
you agree with that, right?
yeah, it is great. All of you who have the recipe who are eating it with us now, I think you'll agree.
yeah.
And
In
it's
fact,
not like it's cherry pie or something. It's just different. I don't know why it's
Yeah,
different.
it's
As
very,
you see, the recipe is very unique because you don't make a batter out of the cake mix. You just
right.
sprinkle it. I never heard of that.
I never heard of
Put
that
the
either.
butter
yeah.
and uh,
And you even
and-
made your own. You didn't ask Charlene to make this one.
yeah, I had to
Uh-huh.
make it myself.
And Gail made it. She
Mm.
says, "Oh, the cherry cobbler is wonderful."
It makes a great breakfast, which we're at breakfast time here. Yeah,
Well, it was so simple too.
I think it's just as good as hers.
It's
There
good.
you go.
It's
I could
good.
do it. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. Dave, we will see you next week, next Wednesday, March 17th, at the first of our monthly Sweet Spot gatherings.
What will we talk about?
Oh,
there's so
somehow
much.
I think you'll find plenty to talk about. And
All right.
know also that the people tuning in are going to be able to ask us questions and really discuss. It's a
Oh,
communication.
question and answer. Those are
And
fun.
yeah.
Yeah. Let
And
me
then-
share Dave's contact information.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So if you're interested in seeing what Dave has on his website, caregiverdave.com is the way to reach out. You can contact him from there. You can also pick up a lot of good tips like that CARE acronym, which I
Yeah.
really like.
I like that.
And then, as we said, also, if you want to get the recipe for next week's guest, who CJ will tell you about ahead of time, you can email us, either authorcjgolden@gmail.com or wendy@heyboomer.biz. We will share the recipe with you so you can taste test with us.
We can make recipes every week, huh?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I can
And be
teach
sure-
Charlene a thing or two, huh?
Yeah, there you go, right? And be sure and register for the Sweet Spot because
I
we
just
want
did, actually.
great.
Good.
Because we want everybody to come and talk to you and ask you questions and share their stories too. So we
Good.
can all learn.
Cool.
Very good.
So may I, as we're running out of time, I want to tell you very, very quickly, next week's guest, Kay Coughlin, I'm sorry, Kay. She's the CEO and chief facilitator of Facilitator on Fire. She has a vision, I love this, to create a world that is inclusive, generously inclusive of adults of all generations. She also hosts a weekly From One Caregiver to Another podcast, and she's the author of From One Caregiver to Another, Overcoming Your Emotional Grind. Yeah. She's going to share her recipe for beef chili. So save some of this cobbler to have dessert after her beef chili. Email us for the recipe. And thank you, Dave, for being with us today.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Great storyteller, Dave. So,
And I'm
Wendy Green.
and I'm CJ Golden. Wendy and I know that caregiving is not a piece of cake. It's not. So let us help you find the sweet spots. And thank you for being with us today.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.